They say if you stand on the cliffs at North Head just outside Sydney, you can hear two things carried on the wind: the crash of the Pacific Ocean and the cries of people who never made it off the boats alive. Tonight we're going to a place locals call Q Station, a beautiful seaside retreat by day, and one of Australia's most haunted locations after dark. This was the last stop for thousands of desperate travellers. Some walked out healthy, others left in a canvas bag, and if the stories are true, a few never left at all. Stay with me, and don't go there alone. On the northern headland of Sydney Harbour sits a cluster of weathered buildings, narrow paths, and lonely lamps fighting back the darkness. Welcome to the old North Head Quarantine Station, the gateway to Australia for anyone unlucky enough to arrive on a sick ship. From the 1830s right up until the 1980s, if your ship carried disease, you were dragged off here. Your name, your hopes, your fresh start, all put on hold behind fences and warning signs. Imagine finally seeing the lights of Sydney after weeks at sea, only to be marched straight past them into a place some staff quietly called Death's Waiting Room. You didn't know if you'd be here for a few days, or if this hill of hospitals and huts would be the last thing you ever saw. The rules were simple. The healthy stayed in rough accommodation up the hill, under guard and under suspicion. The sick were taken down to the hospital wards by the water. Plagues, smallpox, typhus, Spanish flu, each new disease left its mark here. Entire families were split apart the moment they stepped off the gangplank. Parents on one side of the fence, children on the other, each one hoping the cough they heard in the night wasn't the last sound they'd ever share. Some recovered and walked away. Others were buried in the hillside cemetery, their names carved into stone, if they were lucky. Many were just numbers on a page, or a body in a plain, unmarked grave. Passengers carved their names into the sandstone cliffs around the station, messages scratched by shaking hands, trying to prove they existed, just in case no one made it home to tell their story. And it's those stories that some people say never really stopped. Decades after the last quarantined passenger left, the quarantine station was reborn with a new name, Q Station. Now it's a hotel, a conference venue, and the heart of Sydney's ghost tour industry. By day, you see families having breakfast overlooking the harbour, kayaks on the water, tourists taking selfies where the sick once slept. But at night, the lights dim. Doors that were safely propped open during the day are quietly shut. Guides start handing out torches and tell you the rules. Stay together, don't wander off, and if someone whispers your name from the dark, do not answer. One of the most feared parts of Q Station is the old hospital and nurses' quarters. Visitors talk about a presence here, a strict, cold woman in an old-fashioned uniform stalking the halls. Some call her the matron, others just call her her. The story goes that in life, she was responsible for discipline and order. Mercy was not part of the job description. She watched people live, suffer, and die in these wards, and convinced herself she was the only thing stopping chaos. On tours, people step into certain rooms and suddenly feel violently ill, dizzy, nauseous, like someone is pressing down on their chest. Step outside, and it fades. Step back in, and it hits again. Guides talk about guests who refuse to go any farther, clutching their stomachs, shaking, insisting something is standing inches from their face even though no one else can see it. They say the matron doesn't like intruders, and if she decides you don't belong, she lets you know. Up the hill, away from the main paths, are the grave diggers' cottages. Small, simple buildings where staff lived close to the dead they buried. People describe an oppressive, suffocating feeling here. Not the sharp fear of a jump scare, but a slow, heavy dread, like you're being watched through the curtains. Some stories talk about the doctors, not the kind that hold your hand. Guests have reported seeing a man standing in the doorway, his face in shadow, as if lit from behind by a lamp that isn't really there. Others hear boots pacing on wooden floors, doors closing by themselves, or the sound of metal tools clinking in an empty room. Whether the staff here were cruel, indifferent, or just exhausted, no one can say for sure now. But if the energy left behind matches the rumors, it's not the sort of company you want after midnight. Every story at Q Station leads to one place, the morgue. This is where the dead were washed, inspected, and prepared for burial. Concrete slabs still stand where bodies once lay, the echo of running water and hushed voices hanging in the air long after the taps were turned off. On ghost tours, lights sometimes flicker or equipment plays up here. People feel hands brush the back of their neck, but when they turn around, no one is close enough to touch them. Outside, on the hillside, the cemetery lies quietly among the trees. Some graves have names and dates. Others are lost to time, just hints in the earth that someone never got the future they sailed for. Walk there at night and you might hear whispering or the crunch of footsteps behind you on the gravel when everyone in your group is standing still. Some guests leave this part of the tour in tears, unable to explain why they suddenly feel overwhelming grief, as if they're crying for someone they've never met. Today, Q Station offers after-dark tours and full-on paranormal investigations. People show up with EMF meters, digital recorders, cameras, and nerves of steel that don't always last. Recordings from inside the buildings sometimes capture voices when there's no one speaking. A single word, leave. A low, drawn-out no, or the sound of coughing in an empty corridor. Lights go out, torches fail, shadows move in ways that don't match anyone standing in the room. People feel someone grab their hand in the dark, only to realize everyone around them is clutching their own devices. Skeptics walk in expecting a history tour with jump scares. Some of them walk out quietly, refusing to talk about what they thought they saw in a window, or what they felt pressing in on them in a room that used to be full of patients. If this is just old buildings and suggestible minds, it's doing a disturbingly good job. So, what's really haunting Q Station? Is it the ghosts of migrants who never made it into the city? The echo of doctors and nurses who watched too many people die? Or is it something darker, feeding on the fear of every tour group that walks in after sunset? Maybe it's just stories. Or maybe that cold breath on your neck in the hospital wing isn't the sea breeze after all. Tell me, would you spend a night at Q Station, or do you prefer your ghosts on a screen?